Uranus isn't just in a 2-year constant irritation of his sun and moon, spanning through all of 2020. Also this year, we have a quincunx to Neptune starting in the spring and coincident with the beginning of serious trouble from the coronavirus pandemic, and likewise from the beginning of his totally inept response, that to this day he continues to deal with in a still completely incompetent way. This is another example of the quincunx aspect as an angle of uncomfortable adjustment that often relates to matters of health or fatality, which in this case shows up for him through the country he is supposed to be leading and managing. He has been lucky so far in avoiding health or worse himself, but as I've said many times, he should be careful. Even Teflon wears out eventually. As Uranus moves toward the 10th degree, it squares his Pluto, and this is a clear correlation with the authoritarian, fascist impulses he has been indulging of late. Already by early June, at 8.5 degrees of Taurus, it's starting to square Pluto enough to align, at least in part, with his Lafayette Square Bible Walk of Shame, complete with the deployment of American police and armed forces against largely peaceful protesters. Now, as Uranus transits through 10+ degrees and is due to station in August, we see this tendency in full view as he sends in DHS officers in full camouflage to beat up on protesters in what he calls radical left, democratic-led cities. His natal Pluto, his plutocratic authoritarianism, is being challenged, stimulated by contrarian, rebellious, anti-status quo members of the public, reflected by the transiting Uranus. He wants to use his rising Pluto to put down the out-of-control Uranus energy. Interestingly, Pluto is co-ruler of his 4th house, the house of his home, explaining that the violence is happening in his own country. His perceived enemies in this case are here at home, not in a foreign country. Problem is, if you look at his chart, though Pluto is rising, makes it fairly strong, one would have to say Uranus is more than a match for it. If anything, it is stronger, through being elevated and linked to his sun and moon. So odds are very good this ploy will fail, and it will only serve to add to his already miserable record in governance, and even more importantly, toward either further eroding his poll numbers or at least contributing toward keeping him stuck in his current low standing. He doesn't seem to realize that for every Trump supporter that likes cruel, aggressive, authoritarian behavior, at least one, maybe more, anti-Trumpers hate it with a passion and will be sure to make their feelings known in November.